అది మల్లెల గంధం అవునో కాదో మట్టి పెళ్ళ వాసన ఈ మట్టి పెళ్ళ వాసన సినుకు సినుకు కురిసిన నేలన చిత్రమైన వాసన అది మల్లెల గంధం అవునో కాదో మట్టి పెళ్ళ వాసన ఈ మట్టి పెళ్ళ వాసన.
తల్లి వందనం ననగన్న నేల వందనం జన్మనిచ్చిన తల్లి వందనం ఏ జన్మలో వీడని బంధనం
రాయలేలిన నాటి రతనాల సీమలో రాయలేలిన నాటి రతనాల సీమలో.
Morning, friends and permaculturists. Good morning. I am Vitthal Rajan. It gives me very great pleasure to invite all of you to this National Convention on Permaculture in this great hall. Makes me indeed extremely happy to see so many of you here. And the next few days are going to be wonderful days for us. We are going to hear so many experts. I would like to invite the main speakers and the dignitaries to the dais. I would like to invite Dr. Vandana Shiva. I would like to invite Dr. Balachandar Ganesh. I only wish that our very good friend and supporter Bill Mollison were here today. I remember the time well over a quarter of a century ago when we invited Bill Mollison to come to India, and that was the start of the permaculture movement in this country. He very kindly and generously gave us free leave to print his book, Permaculture, a Designer's Manual in this country. And at that time, Mr. Mohan Kanda was IAS Secretary for Agriculture in Hyderabad. And Mohan very kindly gave us some money to print the book, as well as Father Bacher of Miserior. With this sum, we were able to print the designer's manual, I think a couple of thousand copies, which were distributed to agricultural departments in this country and to the universities. So after that, the movement was stabilized by the late Dr. Venkat, whose memory will always be green with us. But the real hero of permaculture development in this country is my very good friend Narsanna. Narsanna, please come and give a welcome, as a host welcome. It is Narsanna who has made this event possible and is going to make the international convention, the international permaculture convention, he is bringing it to Hyderabad next year. It's Narsanna we should be listening to, and I hand the mic over to Narsanna. Narsanna, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to see the crowd here. I think is amazing. I not even expected the permaculture practitioners and farmers and my well-wishers and press and all the delegates from different parts of the country. I'm welcoming you once again. Thank you so much for coming this conference and convergence. I think this is a great day for me to see all of you here after 30 years. That's what I wanted to share with you. So before that, I invite to the dais Mr. S.P. Thakkar, Chief Secretary of Andhra Pradesh. Please come on to the dais, sir. Also, I invite Mr. Claude Alvarez, is a great activist, natural, organic farming movement in India since so many years. Please come on to the dais. And as you know, Mr. K. Purushottam Reddy Garu is an environmentalist of Hyderabad. Since many years, he is fighting for the simple issues, but it's a big issues always everywhere in the Hyderabad and around the state. I think Mr. Purushottam Reddy Garu also invited to the dais. I invite Rukmini Rao Garu also to the dais. She is the activist of women issues, rights and land rights and struggles are many issues. She is part of that movement. Partha Sarathi Garu, Principal Secretary of Agriculture of Telangana State, please come on to the dais. Invited with 2 minutes, but I think he is the person who since beginning in this permaculture movement, who invited to India the Dr. Bill Mollison to India. I think he's the person behind all entire event of those in 1987. I think he's the person take to this permaculture in every corner and every field to the in this state particularly and around the country as well. I think is the person has to talk little bit about the Indian permaculture movement in India. Then we go ahead with our schedule. Thank you so much.
My very good friend Narsanna has asked me to say a few more words. Actually, we would be better, time would be spent more worthwhile, in a worthwhile way listening to Narsanna. But many years ago, I was involved with the Right Livelihood Foundation, which, as you know, is popularly known as the Alternative Nobel Prize. Vandana Shiva here, winner of the Right Livelihood Award, the Alternative Nobel Prize, and so was Bill Mollison. Now, it was just a lucky chance that I met Bill Mollison when I was a staff member of the Right Livelihood Foundation, and I invited Bill, along with a few other award winners, to come to India. This was in the late 80s, and Bill came here, and we had, not to Hyderabad, I remember, but we had a very nice meeting in Bangalore at that time. And out of that grew a commitment on Bill's part to help India found its own permaculture association. So we formed that association. I was the chairman at that time. As I said, Dr. Venkat, the late Dr. Venkat, whose memory will always be green with us, he, along with Narsanna, actually grounded the movement in this country. And Bill was so generous that he gave us the bromides to print this book, the Permaculture Manual. Unfortunately, all I can say is that we printed about a couple of thousand copies, thanks to the generosity of Dr. Bacher of Miserior and the vision of Mohan Kanda, who was secretary, a very good secretary of agriculture in Hyderabad at that time. But I am not sure how many copies are still available, either with the university or with the departments of agriculture. I certainly have one copy still left. And I would request all of you to read today's Hindu. In the op-ed page, there is a very succinct article about the crisis this country is going through, a crisis born out of the fact that successive Indian governments have neglected agriculture, neglected small and marginal farmers, neglected dryland farming to a disastrous extent. Now, it is well known that unless the agricultural sector, unless agriculture in this country, on which directly and indirectly 80% of the people's livelihoods are dependent, unless something is done about reviving sustainable rural livelihoods, this country is going to face very difficult, if not perilous times. It is not sufficient to think of only corporate farming. It's not sufficient to think only of corporate business to pull the country out of inevitable economic and social difficulties unless organizations like this one, unless movements like the permaculture movement are supported in a large way by the public and the government, so that the livelihoods of small and marginal farmers and dryland farming, which still we are talking about 80% of the farmers on 50% of the cultivated lands. Unless this is done, what is going to happen? We are now, it's a shameful feature that we are importing millions of tons of grain to feed the people for political reasons. It should be the Indian farmers who should be supported. Anyway, we have experts here, Vandana is here, all my colleagues here, far more about this. I am now in my 80th year. I have lost a bit of track of time. So I think enough said by me. I hand the mic over. Thank you, Narsanna, for thinking of me. I was there, a colleague of yours a long time ago, thinking of me. That's the kindness that you display and the permaculture movement. Thank you.
So much,
I
sir.
hand the mic over back.
So today, Vital, whatever he shared is memories with the old friends of group, people, and particularly Dr. Venkat, who was the person who is, I think, this is the person who taken this movement to any extent in this country. I think today is not with us, but he is the person, Dr. Venkat, passed away in 2011, 25th August. But still, I think he is a great mentor of all agriculture practices, all farmers and practitioners, and with the friends of who he talks about the alternative systems. I think is that whatever the contribution to this permaculture movement in India, I think ultimately that goes to the Dr. Venkat. I think in that light of this today the conference, I should say congrats and greetings from Aranya Agricultural Alternatives. So Aranya Agricultural Alternatives is an NGO working since 1999 in Andhra Pradesh. Now it's bifurcated 2 states in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So this has founded in 1999. Since then we are, as an organization, we are working on natural resource management. But still I have to say something before talk about convergence. However, these meetings are in the background of tragic loss of precious lives of many cotton farmers in Telangana, Maharashtra, tobacco farmers in Andhra Pradesh, and some red gram growers in Karnataka. Many causes and reasons are being attributed for the crisis. Whatever they be, it be indeed sad the very precious lives have been snuffed off. Today it is cotton and red gram. Tomorrow it could be very, very many other crops because the factors are continue to operate in our agriculture. Could it be that there is something fundamentally and seriously wrong with our agriculture practices? The permaculture approach, the permaculture is one of the system where now today is in the world almost 122 countries are practicing in all parts of their countries and the world over, and this is the spreading movement in all over world except few countries. I think that is one of the information around the world. I think there exactly I wanted to share some of these countries pertaining to our Indian agriculture in my session, but it is based on 3 principles. That is, the permaculture is care of earth, care of people, and give away surplus or fair share. Still, again, I wanted to, here in the particular, this event is a very unique. This first time with my old friends of all, from Vandana Shiva to Claude and Vital and everybody, those who are here, and sir and others, friends, which I thought little differently. Let us be as a group, very inclusive. Though, whatever the practices we are doing and working with the communities, I think everybody is doing their best. I think let us come to a dash, a platform where let us share our ideas, and we are all meant for the farming community. And that is why we are all today here. I'm very happy to see all of people are here. This is the first event I have come across after 30 years. I think I'm so happy to see all people are here. So the sign of the times we are passing through has brought into our midst a very disturbing and tragic aspect of behavior. It is that our ability to change the face of the earth continuing to grow at a faster rate than our ability to understand the consequences of such changes. Unless we decided to think about the long-term effects of all our actions while trying to meet our survival needs on site, our problems will further aggravate. A common denominator appears to be emerging in all such together like these convergences. It is the need to change and search for alternatives. as for example, sustainable agriculture, organic agriculture, biodynamic farming, natural farming, Vedic, spiritual, zero budget farming as an alternative to this modern conventional agriculture. Various schools and terms are being used to differentiate these alternatives. All should be welcomed. Many of us do not experience the sharp cutting edge of these particular operations. However, this should not deter us from identifying the search of practice of alternatives, for it is a situation of either together or none. In such situations, it will be a bit of temerity on our part to assume dogmatic positions. We are going to deal with living systems, and our experiences and knowledge about them is bound to be changing. Cooperation is the key. What we have to evolve is spirit of sharing and preparedness to accept beneficial changes no matter under what label or whichever quarter it comes from. To this gathering, permaculture is being introduced as one of the alternative of attitude and approach to the problem of regeneration of agriculture. The relevance of permanent agriculture to this Indian agriculture is the key now. We, Aranya is a small non-profit organization. Our work is medium. We are hosting this NPC with a sense of sharing our experiences, anxieties, and whatever the resources we possess. With gratitude, we will welcome similar sharing by each one of you to share, change the present pattern of agriculture, and provide safe food to the present and future generations. So based on this, the permaculture seeks to divide these resources fairly among us people, and we have to think seriously the small issues, but everybody should think seriously also. What is happening to our rainwater that falls on our village and lands? It is a question for everybody. Think seriously and then think for a while what is happening. What is happening to the drinking water sources for this village, in the village and the towns? What is happening to the adjoining forest, to the tree cover in the village and on the farmlands? What is happening to the natural fertility of soils? Why is there an increase in pest and disease of our crops despite large scale of your pesticides? Why animal integration is not part of our agriculture? What is happening to the diversification of farming systems and seed of local indigenous land races? What is happening to the health and rural urban people and our animals and their grazing lands, the birds and their habitats? What is happening to the livelihoods of the people of rural and the towns? What can be done to increase nutritional food security at local levels? This question is, can we do something, howsoever small, about these things? So Aranya agriculture is working for small and marginal farmers at the same time the urban communities as well. It feels that not only we can do something, but also necessary to undertake some action to begin with. With this in view, the Aranya Agricultural Alternatives implores that we have a group of meeting, share our experiences, skills and talents and other resources towards some feasible activity for the common cause. Thank you so much. Now I invite Vandanaji is here today. I think is one of another more or less day for everybody.
The first problem is that we have been made to forget that Indian civilization is based on the principles of permaculture. In North India, we say first Krishi, then trade, and the worst is a naukri, to be a serf to someone else. And now, of course, it's the opposite. The fanciest thing you can do is be a slave to a multinational. That's what all our young people are being groomed for. And then, of course, after 10 years, they get bored, or they have burnout, and then they come to us for training. And how do I become an organic farmer? So I always say, after the high-tech job is back to the land.
Thank you so much, madam. It's a great inspiration. I request SP Takkar Garu.
Good morning, Narsanna and Padma. and all dear friends. At a short notice, I rushed here and then I have to rush back from here. A few comments. This year we are doing 350,000 farm ponds in Andhra Pradesh, worth 2,500 crores under NREGS, in addition to 1 lakh water harvesting structures which we are trying to do. Day before yesterday, we have decided permaculture will be a major input for us. It has been decided in our cabinet. And we have requested Government of India to give us a pilot where vermicompost will be valued equal to NPK and subsidies will be given for that. It's almost getting through. Coming back to what we are trying to do, how we are trying to do, tomorrow we have a speaker in Ramchandrudu coming here, and I was telling Rukmini just now. On 1st March, we are launching 1,000 farmer producer organizations. We are keeping this network outside government so that it can sustain. Bureaucrats will not meddle with it in the long run. We've done it already earlier. Vasan was created like that. AP Mass was created like that. This year, our agriculture sector growth is 33%. 5% it was last year. So we are aware that inclusive growth, if it has to happen to primary sector only, agriculture sector. There are issues, yes, we are trying to address them. There are things which need to be done in a big way. So my offer, Narsana has been working with me for a very, very long time. In fact, he took one Nizam Sagar Water Users Association where he had only 2 TMC of water. Normally 2 TMC of water gives us around 17,000 acres of irrigation. And that year he did 1,20,000 acres with 2 TMC of water. I mean, it was unprecedented. Then he created a farmers organization around that. They do their own trading of all commodities and input and output management. We are looking for these initiatives. We want them to grow. Because in government, systems are not permanent, so things change. We talk about scale, quality goes down. But the question is, can we create institutions which are people's institutions, representatives' institutions, and we keep them outside the government? So in case of farmer producer organization, we think that if supply chain management happens, farmers become the consultants for us and they move around and guide everyone, and we provide resources for that is the model which we have tried in the last 7 to 8 years, succeeded to a great extent, and now we are trying to bring into farmer producer organizations. We think that there are about 50 lakh surviving farmers will be there and about 1 crore self-help women are there in Andhra Pradesh. They will be organized around whatever they are producing, whether it's MSME or milk or anything else. To begin with, we are talking about this 1,000 number. It's not a target because it's been going on for a long time. We are only trying to consolidate that and create an institutional space around that. We are keeping 300 crores and outside the government 300 crores for management by the network. Hopefully it will work out because whatever we tried on similar lines in the past 20 years, it has worked out. Those organizations have become national organizations and very, very sustainable, and they keep on growing. Narsana asked me when this permaculture convention was to be done, whether we can participate. I said I've become a part of Andhra now, and it's in Telangana, but I have no problem in supporting it. I will also say next session you want to do, we will host and we will pay 100% money for that. I was also telling Mr. Alvarez just now that in case you have a problem in organizing your international conference in Delhi, we will fund it, and you can do it in Andhra Pradesh, and it's possible to work out on it. I'm the Chief Secretary, but I'm also Agriculture Production Commissioner and Development Commissioner and Planning Secretary. So there are a lot of things which can be worked out. Basically, we keep people in mind and then we work according to that. Madam was telling that agriculture should be taught. Yes, I do agriculture every Sunday. I've been doing it for the last 15, 20 years. Every crop which we try in government, I do it personally and then see whether it's working out or not working out. I'll say let us go with a win-win and proactive mode instead of criticizing and criticizing and criticizing. It's very easy to criticize when you sit outside and think that nothing is happening around you. It's not so. Communication is very fast. People are struggling. There's need for survival and things are happening. What we are talking today, maybe we are reinventing the wheel at a higher level. It's been there traditionally. Every farmer knows, everyone knows how we have to work onto it. I wish all the best to your movement. Anything need to be done, welcome for Andhra Pradesh. Mr. Naidu He's a very dynamic chief minister. That's what we are talking about. We want to, actually, when we go to foreign countries, we feel very sad that we are such a poor society. Why is it so? Why people are so poor? Malnutrition is so high. Literacy levels are very low. A lot of things need to be done. Governance models are changing. Bureaucracy is getting a lower space now, which is rightly so, because CSR initiatives, other initiatives are coming out. Communication standards have improved a lot. It's a disruptive change which is happening, and it must happen because there's no other way. We cannot run the government, we cannot run the society the way it's been run. It has to all change, and all of you have a role into that. Narsana is my contact here. Anything required, anytime you want to start, you want to join us. We are having almost all kinds of initiatives. When we are starting these farmer-producer organizations, we are not trying to standardize the model, we are not trying to standardize the methods. We are encouraging any model, any initiative which has come, and we are going to say that we will support it. If farmer-producer organizations are already working, user groups are already working, we are trying to say that at Vasan level, we will keep the help of consultants, progressive farmers to work out on it. I did Water Users Association. I used to read Ms. Vandana's article that time. We fought World Bank. We did not want a right to be created around water the way it was done in Maharashtra. We had a bitter fight, and we came out successfully, and we said water is a common property, water is a fundamental right. And because of that, World Bank has removed this concept of water regulatory authority from India. We had a big fight with them, and finally we succeeded. So the question is, how do we make it all sustainable and work out around it? So my request, come and work with us in Andhra Pradesh, work in Telangana also. Most of my postings were in Telangana before I shifted to the bifurcated state Andhra Pradesh, and we'll work together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, Mr. Balchandra Garu, please.
Members in the audience and members on the dais, I must particularly thank my old friend. He said he's 80, but he's very young, but he was the one who put me in touch with Dr. Narsana, and that's why I'm here. So let me go back. Like Vandana was saying, she was into quantum theory and doing other things. I was a banker on Wall Street. Now, yeah, I was a self-reformed in some sense, because after 10 years, I decided the tropical jungle was of greater interest to me. But if you had asked me at that time, I'm just maybe doing a play acting or a role acting. If you had asked me at that time, I might have thought permaculture, the two words, if you break it up, I would have said, okay, from a Western point of view, that's permafrost. A Western notion, and then a culture would be a petri dish. You could get genes and molecules and whatever, you could come up with new high-yielding varieties perhaps. But in any case, it's many years since that time, and I'm sure more people are beginning to realize the importance of sustainability, and this is an overused word, perhaps not sustainable, but there are limits to growth. I mean, we don't talk about human population growth. Ultimately, a consumer demand. It's not for us, the white collars or the beige collars or whatever, we are not preachers. We need to be practitioners as well. What are the practical aspects, as the Chief Secretary said? Yes, we need to point out mistakes that have happened, but how do we learn from those mistakes and not repeat them? So when Narsana asked me to talk about something, and I come from a deep interest in science and a research background and a donor perspective as well, what might work? So I was going to talk about small-scale agriculture, poverty alleviation, and biodiversity conservation. All these three are linked. And in fact, I had an image. If I had projected it, it would have been a biodiversity-rich landscape in the eastern Himalaya. It's a matrix of land uses with multiple species. It's a biodiversity hotspot. And then you have small farms where people are using, I won't say all of them all the time, but you're using much of the natural processes, the ecosystem services as it's called, the pollinators, the decomposing, let's say the compost that we make, but there are natural energy inputs that go into this farming without much of external inputs. I mean, they are in effect practicing some form of more sustainable agriculture. I don't think anything is sustainable in that sense. One needs to be a lot more careful what kind of inputs go in, what is taken out, etc. So, but what is the context in which we are talking about this? Governments are naturally concerned about food riots, food price hikes, keeping people fed. But if you really look at the context, I mean, whether it's a symptom or the root cause, disease or otherwise, we are now stuck in a situation where we have worldwide, not just in India, worldwide we have about 500 million small farmers. You can define anywhere between 2.5, 3 acres. Much of it is rain-fed. In India, I would say it's about, anything you take, a rule of thumb might be 20% of those would be in India. Whether it's poverty, it might be more in terms of malnutrition, the malnourishment, stunted and wasted, blindness, whatever it is, there are huge issues, and I would say there are about 100 million small farmers in India. Some of them are being forced to migrate because of, well, I would say forced in the sense of involuntary, but that is 100 million with an average size of about 5 per family. It could be more, but 5 per family. You're talking 500 million people dependent on agriculture of some sort. And this is rain-fed agriculture, it's fragmented lands, ecologically fragile, marginally productive. I mean, I'm talking in general terms. I mean, there are certainly people who are practicing very good agriculture, getting very high yields, but those are the poster childs for what seems to be the best. But when you look at the average, the returns are very low. But at the same time, these are the people who are the proximate stewards of biodiversity in the area, whether it's the Eastern Ghats, whether it's the Western Ghats or the Eastern Himalayas, even in Rajasthan. I mean, so much variety. How did these varieties come about? One, of course, is the natural endowment. Another, of course, is the cultural aspects of human ingenuity, traditional practice, knowledge that goes with that. So if they are the stewards, some of it is dormant. How do we really try and get it out? And this is where, if we can provide incentives to them, they would be the key actors in sustainability. Again, Vandana talked about the disruption caused by Green Revolution. I don't want to repeat those. But agricultural intensification, if we continue, like in Punjab, can also put functional biodiversity. Even if you're not talking of variety of species, you're talking about basic ecological processes, and these can exacerbate both environmental and social risks and vulnerabilities. And of course, climate change, which is another impact of human use across the world, that's also likely to heighten these extreme events. I mean, people might say it's an act of God. I mean, most of it is acts of man. If you really then look at the roots of crisis, so what are some of the ways we can understand the issues but then come up with solutions? The national programs, I mean, I come from a biodiversity, at least last several years, focusing on biodiversity. I mean, this need not be just the elephants and the tigers and the lions, but the minor small things that rule the world as well, the microbes, the soil health. National programs are focused on megafauna, focused on biodiversity conservation, relatively less on people and biodiversity, that linkage. People are also part of it. And efforts to date have been small scale. I mean, you can talk about the more recent ones of Forest Rights Act and so on, but on paper it's there, but in terms of implementation, it's still, I think, requires a lot more effort and actual results to be seen. And there are very few replicable models. It can't be each time to be tried out. You might have pilot, but how do you scale? Scale is an issue in a country like ours. How do you take up something and then try to create a model that then can be applied in order to at least reduce the time needed for success? Much of our research has also been centrally located beyond the reach of smallholders, and the research, again, it's not a criticism, but I think it's something that we need to learn. I'm also on the board of, might be it's not the good thing to say, but I'll mention it, the CGIAR, the Consultative Group on International Agricultural Research. They have been promoting major gene banks. Of course, they're also reforming it's also chemical inputs. But increasingly they realize the importance of incorporating both traditional knowledge, practices of small farmers, and modern science. So participatory research is very much needed. The other thing that is also got to be realized and is being tried out is the fact that many small farmers are not just dependent on monocultures. They're not doing 1 or 2 crops. Of course, markets might force them to do that because of certain reasons, but they practice rain-fed polycultures of locally adapted land races and depend on ecosystem services. This is the default, I would say, of how small farmers deal with. So this would require a systems approach instead of a reductionist one. I'm almost done. So if you want to meet the goals of poverty alleviation, food security, as well as biodiversity conservation, there are a few things I think we are aware, but let me just mention very quickly. In 2 minutes, I'll wrap up. One of the major constraints in these areas is human-wildlife conflict. It's not just the elephants which are crop raiding for sugarcane or corn or whatever it is. It's also the rodents, it's also the wild pigs and boars. How do you deal with these issues? Land holdings may be too small to lift people out of poverty. Perhaps, I think, mention has been made of producer groups, thousands of producer groups in Andhra Pradesh and so on. How do you make it active and really these groups then result in going up higher up in the value chain? There are things like payment for ecosystem services. Some of it has worked, many of them have failed. We need to understand why they have failed. And also REDD+, reduction in emission due to degradation and deforestation. These may benefit smallholders, but again, the issue is complex governance issues. Perhaps that will require a new way, innovative way of appropriate rural financial and judicial services. Again, and one can go on and on about skewed value chain, poor storage, transportation, etc., etc. And the final thing I would say here is, in this category, there has to be a conscious effort at a societal investment to smooth the transition for many of the marginal small farmers to off-farm employment. We can't just wish them away and leave it to themselves. They will then migrate, create other social issues for themselves and in cities. So, in summary, small-scale farming can contribute to biodiversity conservation, while local ecosystems can support agriculture and poverty reduction. Policy should treat the above 3 elements as linked aspects of a healthy, multifunctional production landscape. Again, we are not talking of sectoral approaches anymore. We are talking about convergence. I've heard different points of view, perhaps all converging, improved coordination amongst government agencies as well as civil society, groups like what Narsana is trying to do. And of course, mention was also made about CSR. CSR needs, I think it's still in early days. How does one channel some of these resources? And finally, national agricultural research should specifically target small-scale agriculture. And many of the models that have been tried out, I think those should be taken up for further research and scaling up. Thank you.
So, good morning, everybody. I think we have come to the end of inaugural session. Everybody must be waiting for tea session. So, bear me for 5 minutes more or 10 minutes more, if you agree. I convey my best wishes to all the participants who have not only come from different states of India. I find a lot of permaculturists, practitioners from various other countries also, they are participating in the convention. Such a tremendous response. I recognize the presence of Vandana ji. When I listen to her lecture, speech, whatever you call it, she looks like a Raquel Carson of Silent Spring. So we are recollecting 1962 book, Silent Spring. Fight against DDT. Anyway, we recollect her biopiracy, her fight against IPR rights, WTO issues, and very, very important, Navadhanya, the diversity for which she has been. I also recognize presence of various permaculturists, practitioners. By and large, I find only practitioners here. It's amazing convention. So much respond. When Narsana Garu first came to me that he is holding a national convention, I was just inquiring who are participating. He told me from these two states, about 200-300 will come, and other states also, another 200-300 will come. Now it looks like a 800-900 convention. Let us give a big hand to Narsana Garu and his life partner Padma Garu. Being representative of government of Telangana, let me proudly say that Narsana Garu belongs to a backward district of Telangana, Adilabad district. I think he is from Khanapur area. And I'm very glad to know that his stature is so much in the field of permaculture. He has been working in this field in the last 2.5 decades. Everywhere, I feel that we are living in era of alternatives, rightly named by him, agriculture alternatives. We are discussing of alternatives by and large in every subject now. If you take health sector, we are talking about alternative medicine. We got tired of those modern medicines, the antibiotics. Instead of saving people, they started killing people, isn't it? So we are thinking of alternate medicines, looking for alternate medicinal systems. Even if you take our own education field, we are also tired of the system. They have become, factories of, they were just churning students and degrees, examination oriented. There is no scope for much creativity. So we are fed up with our education system and looking for alternative educational models. In the entire government sector now discussion is going on. What are the alternate education models which will increase the, which will give scope for creativity. Anyway, rightly this convention is here in Telangana. The context also is very, very clear. This will send across a clear-cut message to all our farmers. The crisis which the agriculture sector of Telangana is undergoing now. I think this is one occasion for us to get into the roots of the problem of Telangana belt. The distinguished speakers have been mentioning about Telangana, Vidarbha, and these parts where crisis in agriculture is looming large. The fight has been continuously going on between, development versus environment. The challenge before all of us is how to find this balance. We need a development. We need, huge food grain production for our growing population. We want food security. We want nutritional security. We want a good production of pulses, oil seeds. We should not import. The population is growing, and we have to balance, and we have to do everything respecting nature, in harmony with the nature, whatever names you call it, whether it is ecological agriculture, nature farming, organic farming. Recently I had been to Gangtok, the national convention, where our Prime Minister has declared Sikkim as first organic state in the country. They are fortunate. I was just going around, the Sikkim state. I felt that the whole state is in the lap of nature. It's not very difficult to implement organic farming in states like Sikkim, with 80% forest area, with terrace cultivation, no scope for introduction of machines. With a little effort, you can go for organic farming in states like Sikkim. But imagine states like AP, Telangana, Punjab, Haryana, where we have huge tracts of irrigated tracts under projects. Farmers are growing only paddy or one crop or wheat or something like that. We realize the lessons we learned from Green Revolution. Now we are all realizing that the yields are getting stagnated, the soils are not responding, the organic matter is getting degraded, there is no humus in the soil. Rather, we started looking at soil as only a commodity in a mechanical manner. We believed in an industrial model, in only linear growth, even in agriculture. Now we realize that linear model is not useful. We come back. Now we say that we respect nature. Whatever practices we do, we respect nature. We have to work with the nature, considering the ecological principles. I am a postgraduate in agriculture. I have done agronomy in MS Agriculture in the same institution where we are there. We have studied. We have studied INM. We have studied IPM. We have studied all those practices, biofertilizers, seed treatments, cultural methods, mechanical methods. We studied about pheromones, so many methods. There are also successful stories in our states. If you take Andhra or Telangana, if you go back to the history, maybe 10, 20 years, there have been a lot of programs involving communities. One program I remember is CMSA, Community-Based Sustainable Agriculture, where some concrete effort has been made in the same direction. Similarly, I remember NPM, non-pesticide management in agriculture. We have been discussing about it. But we find that there are only islands where we find a practice of agricultural systems or farming systems which are in tune with ecological principles, at least to some extent. We have been promoting in a big way organic farming. We have been promoting vermicompost. We have been talking about organic farming. But somehow, somewhere, something has gone wrong. Now, how to get this system, right? If you take Telangana, the area under cotton is growing. Out of 50 lakh hectares of cultivated area in Telangana, now cotton alone occupies 17 lakh hectares. Imagine. It's all almost BT cotton now. And farmers also take up this cotton crop in light soils. Rain-fed agriculture, light soils, uncertain rainfall, high rising temperature. Imagine the fate of the crop. Adding to that, very, very high cost of inputs. Let it be seed, let it be fertilizer, let it be indiscriminate use of pesticides. Sometimes we feel enough is enough. Let us do something about it. We talk to farmers, we conduct, rights sadhasus, we talk of what is this indiscriminate use of pesticides, use less pesticide, use fertilizer only based on soil testing. The NPK fertilizers have already started damaging soil, it's not responding. We talk of everything this. As mentioned by SP Thakkar Saab, we are reinventing again and again, but somehow there is some problem in the whole system. It is not able to take a major turn. We find oasis in the deserts. We find success stories. Even now we find a lot of farmers doing organic farming. They follow Subhash Palekar model in our states. A lot of farmers we met. There are success stories. But somehow we are failing to scale it up. That's where somewhere something all of us have to sit together, brainstorm and do how to go about it, how to break this chain. And this is the right place for all of us to think about these issues, going to the root causes, why this is happening, and what approaches we have to adapt to educate our farmers. They are still believing company fellows. They are misguided, they are misled. But as a system, whether it is government, NGOs, the practitioners, somehow we are failing on the whole to prevent that and break the chain. And it is high time that the crisis is looming large. Everybody is discussing about this crisis. In fact, I find that there is also social crisis in the villages. The farmers are living in isolation. The whole traditional systems of community, living like a community in the villages, we are not finding now. A farmer commits a suicide, and if you talk to other farmers, okay, he had his problem and he committed suicide. You don't find empathy from other farmers also. The husband commits a suicide and family just watches them. They are not with the farmer. The farmer feels that I am struggling hard for my family, making debts, making huge investment only in the interest of my family, for the children education, for the medical needs, but my family doesn't recognize this. So there is also social problem in all these areas wherever we find this crisis. So after realizing the ill effects of whatever we called it green revolution, now Dr. M.S. Swaminathan also admits whatever technological practices we are talking about, they have to be in tune with ecological principles. We are talking of evergreen revolution. Still somebody is hoping for second green revolution. We don't know what they mean. What they mean by second green revolution? Do they mean again similar situation, which will take us where? We don't know. Anyway, I think the key theme, as I understand the convention, ultimately I have two suggestions for the farmers, because all the way they have come from different districts of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. I have only two suggestions for them. One is reduction of cost of cultivation, which is a very, very basic problem in the agriculture sector now. And whatever discussion that is going to take place in the next 3 days, definitely all these suggestions and measures will help the farmers in bringing down cost of cultivation. Second important principle I feel, protection of or preservation of our natural resources, mainly water and soil. We have been implementing watershed programs in the last 3-4 decades. Even if you go through the literature relating to watershed, same principles. It is farming systems, integrated approaches, multi-layer, agriculture, trees, shrubs, herbs, all layers. We have to capture sunlight for effective utilization. Use the nature. We find the same thing, but somehow we are not able to practice. Our farmers want cash money, net cash and higher income, because their needs are high. Because society, there is a problem of standard of living. They want their children to be admitted in a convent schools, English education. It has become a vicious circle. Our own pesticides and fertilizers leading to high residue content in our food, milk, vegetables, fruits, they are affecting our health. And for our health, our medical costs are going up. So educational needs are going up, medical costs are going up, and farmer wants higher income. And agriculture has become almost, non-remunerative these days, because there is a cost of, cultivation has gone very high, and the yields are coming down, and net income is coming down, and they are into debts, and it is leading to crisis. I hope you offer some solutions to the farmers of Telangana at the end of this conference. I feel at the national level that 1/3 of our entire country is following natural farming, because 1/3 of our country is a tribal area or hill area where almost we are, by default, we are doing natural farming. but we have to concentrate on those areas, the irrigated tracts and rain-fed tracts, and particularly in view of the climatic change which is impacting lives of farmers, we need to do this. And fundamentals, ultimately, the preservation of soil, water, and preservation of biodiversity, they must take upper hand, and whatever policies we have to formulate, whatever schemes we have to formulate, we have to take them into account. Thank you. My best wishes for the conference.
We are going to sow a seed or many seeds. Most of the Convergence conference will light the lamp, but today we are sowing the seed. Each one of you sow some seeds. Now year after we are talking about not just seeds, we are talking them as a land races. Almost all, we have 48 varieties are here. So this is a Kharif and Rabi, all seeds. As Vandana ji was talking about, out of 48, 22 is a pulse varieties. I thought that is the seeds we are going to seed. So in the soil is there are different soils are there. What are the soils of these parts of the country we brought, and we mixed it, mixed soil, mixed seeds and mixed sowing. All of you are participate in that sowing the seed ceremony. Thank you so much, sir.
If there are any children in the audience, Raghavas, I believe, is here, and they've got some seeds from their farm. I would love for them to come and join in and represent them. While the ceremony is going on, I just have some few.
కాపురం పెట్టిందిరా శాశ్వతపు కాపురం